Good morning, and welcome to the 42nd rededication of the South Boston Vietnam Memorial. Stephen McNulty, the Boston Police Department, will sing our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, Stephen. Invocation will be delivered by Father Robert Casey.
Tommy called me yesterday and asked me to pray that there would be no rain today, so the Patriots did not call me. Let us pray. God, our Father, we ask your blessing upon us today as we remember and honor our servicemen and women that died in Vietnam. We honor and remember also all those men and women who have lost their lives safeguarding our freedoms and assuring peace throughout the world. As we honor these brave soldiers today who gave their life for our country and this community, we pledge never to forget, and we promise to do all in our power to promote peace throughout the world. We are mindful of today of all those men and women serving here in our country and around the world in harm's way. We ask you, Lord, to watch over them, protect them, and bring them safely home. As we gather today, let our prayer be one of peace for our world, our country, our community, and our homes, and above all, for peace in our hearts. We ask this in God's name. Amen.
Thank you, Father Casey. Please be seated. For the past 42 Septembers, we have gathered around this stone to honor and remember the ultimate sacrifice 25 sons of South Boston made in Vietnam. Ours was a ceremony different from most because in so many ways Vietnam was a conflict unlike those that had come before. Service and sacrifice was obscured by politics and division 50 years ago. The portrait of the Vietnam veteran was hollowed down to devolve into one of failure, anger, wrapped in camouflage. But on that brilliant Sunday afternoon 42 years ago, this country was given a starkly different picture of the Vietnam veteran. There was no camouflage to be found in those sons and neighbors who served and fought and fortunate enough to come back home alive. Their service to this country, as well as their heroism in those jungles, was represented only by a red carnation pinned to their lapels. So rare was the sight on that first Sunday that network crews from New York came to South Boston to capture it. Over the years, the red carnation has come to symbolize the love, devotion, and respect this community has for the sons who served in Vietnam, and most especially for those who gave their lives there. It was closer to 45 years ago when Tom Irwin, Jerry Turner, Harry Carroll, George Egan, and myself took it upon ourselves to remember the friends we had grown up with and lost in Vietnam. It was only after a good deal of research that we come to learn just how high a price South Boston paid. My cousin Harry Carroll designed the stone and opted for black granite to set it apart from so many others. Once again, we were ahead of the curve. More than a year later, black granite was chosen for the National Vietnam Memorial in Washington, D.C. All we hoped for so many years ago was that the friends we grew up with, hung out with, played ball with, and went off to war with would always be remembered. If you forget my death, then I died in vain. For myself, as well as all the veterans you see standing around this fence, those 10 words are both very personal and yet so profound. Over the past 4 decades, they have drawn military leaders, presidential candidates, 4 Medal of Honor conventions, as well as spirited array of local as well as national political leaders to this sacred circle. To illustrate the reach our ceremony has had over the past 42 years, I direct your attention to the 2 circle fences to my right that contained saplings from Belleau Wood in France. Those historians among us will recognize Belleau Wood as the site of a legendary battle the 6th Marines fought over a stretch of 25 days in June 1918. They took on near crippling casualties. The Marines emerged victorious, acquiring the nickname Devil Dogs from the Germans. I want to thank Colonel John Glitz, who contacted me about the tree project, and a special thank you to General Ron Johnson, who's here today from Duxbury, who drove the tree saplings up from Washington, D.C. Upon receiving the gift, I was told the trees and their history represented a kind of spirit both men had heard about our memorial ceremony. These two trees will be living memorials to the men from South Boston and Boston who died in World War I and the Marines past, present, and future. Quite simply, the dream 42 years ago was to remember the friends we lost and honor the ultimate sacrifice they made. It's a dream that will never die, so long as this sacred circle exists and parents take the time to tell their children about the names carved into the stone as they make their way to the playground behind me. Once again, on behalf of Tom Irwin, Jerry Turner, George Egan, Harry Carroll, and myself, thank you once again for being here and remembering. It's my honor now to introduce our guest speaker today. Lieutenant General Mahoney, Christopher J. Mahoney, was born in South Weymouth, Massachusetts, and graduated from Holy Cross in June of 1987. He completed the basic school in the infantry officers course at Quantico, graduating in 1988. After flight training in Florida and Texas, his qualification as an A-6E intruder pilot, Lieutenant Mahoney deployed to the Indo-Pacific with VMA 224, the Bengals. He completed transition training to the F-18 in El Toro and made multiple deployments with MFA 224 and MFA 122 to the Indo-Pacific, Italy, and Iraq, flying out of Marine Corps Air Station Buford and Marine Corps Air Station Miramar. He had served tours as an instructor of the Marine Aviation Weapons Tactics at Marine Corps Air Station Yuma. He has commanded twice at the squadron level as well as the group level. His general officer's duties to date included posting as a Deputy Commander of Marine Forces Pacific, Director of Strategy and Plans at Headquarters Marine Corps, Deputy Commander, United States Forces, Japan, Commanding General, 3rd Marine Aircraft Wing, in his current assignment as the Deputy Commandant for Programs and Resources. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a welcome to our guest today, Lieutenant General Christopher Mahoney.
Well, good morning, everybody, and to our distinguished guests, Madam Mayor, Representative Lynch, Senator Collins, Representative Beal, and Councilman Flynn and Flaherty. I think your presence here just puts an exclamation point on why this day is so important. To the Vietnam vets, especially, the people who are aligned around the circle here with the red carnations. 50 years long in the coming, you are home. You are home. Look, it's a true privilege to be here today, and I don't say that as locker room talk from a general officer who has come up here to speak. My father was from Neponset. My mother was from Medford. My grandmother used to drag us down to the end of L Street to watch her brother Joe swim with the Brownies. I did most of my growing up on the South Shore. I worked summers for Jack Casey down at the end of the road on the trucks. And might have had a couple of pints down at the Teamster bar afterwards, but I was of age, I promise. And I signed up for the Marine Corps right down at the Fargo building down on Summer Street. So when I say it's a privilege, it's a happy privilege being invited back by Tommy just to say a few words. And I think on the eve of September 11th, it's fitting that we gather together to remember. And it's even more fitting that we guarantee that we gather in this place with these veterans to remember. Tommy talked about the two small oak trees over here that will help us remember. And he talked to you about the history. As those trees grow taller, they'll grow stronger, and their shade will grow wider. Their shadow will keep you cool in the summer. That will help us remember. To the Marines of World War I, to the Marines that are serving and will serve, strength and sacrifice, we know no other way. But I want to talk for a minute about the strength of Southie. I want to talk about the 25 names that are inscribed on this stone behind me. Unlike many of you here, I didn't know any of them. Up until last week, I didn't know their names. I didn't know their stories. But when I thought about it, I really didn't have to. I know of men like them. I know of individuals that I serve with who follow a tradition of service. They are men and women who, confronted with danger and death, did their best. They saw what they could do, and they did their best. They worried more about the guy to their left and their right than they did about themselves. They're soldiers like Jimmy Wheeler, down at the bottom there in the center. His platoon medic was killed, and he stayed exposed in open ground under rocket, mortar, and machine gun fire, sometimes as close as 30 meters. Why did he do this? He did it to provide critical medical care to his buddies. Jimmy Wheeler made it out that day, but he was killed 11 days later. Specialist James Wheeler was awarded the Silver Star. The Marines like John C. Calhoun, you can see in the first row, who, while under intense enemy fire and outnumbered, and I read an extensive history in their combat diaries about what happened that day, 7th of January, 1968. He darted back across open ground numerous times, back and forth. Why did he do that? To provide ammunition for his buddies so that they would not be defeated in detail. Johnny Calhoun didn't make it out that day. Johnny Calhoun, Corporal John Calhoun, was awarded the Navy Cross. My observation is this. My observation is that those two, that soldier, that Marine, and the 23 other names that are cherished on this monument, they're emblematic of the Southie tradition. They're emblematic of the tradition that you have dedication, something above and beyond yourself to others. When certain danger, even death, surrounded them, their choice was clear. When faced with a choice between themselves and their buddies, there was no choice. They were raised here in South Boston. They knew no other way. Television sometimes says that we live in a nation divided. If you listen to social media at times, you'll be confused. There'll be half-truths and sometimes outright lies. In this market, this social media market, service sometimes takes a back seat to selfishness. Service in uniform and to the nation sometimes doesn't seem like it has a high price. This market seems to ignore sometimes the idea that doing something positive, doing something, dare I say, honorable, is worth it. In this market, it's pretty easy to be cynical. But I don't see a whole lot of that here today. Boston, South Boston, is a different market. In this market, there is a tradition of service, an acknowledgement with the freedoms and security and the privileges that we enjoy come a measure of sacrifice. And the 25 names on that stone tell us that sometimes that measure is full, that measure is complete. For those of you who have visited this beautiful place before, you know the challenge made, and Tommy brought it up. If you forget my death, I died in vain. Let me state what I believe to be fact. That challenge has become a pledge. Those gathered here today, the families, the friends, especially the veterans, you will never forget. Remembrance, though, is beyond a marble stone, as beautiful as it is. Remembrance, though, is beyond this beautiful park, as hallowed as the ground is. You will not forget, because those 25 names are part of this town. They're part of this community. You veterans will not forget, because you are built into the fabric of this place. Built in. Can't be taken out. You will not forget because of the traditions of Boston, the people of Southie, the culture of this place. Cannot forget. You have taken the pledge. You know no other way. Thank you all, and Semper Fidelis.
Thank you, General Mahoney. Retire the colors. Please be seated. Before I invite Mayor Wu to speak, I just want to take a moment to thank the Boston Parks Department Commissioner Ryan Woods and Max Ford Diamond. Max helped us plant these trees, did a terrific job, and has been maintaining them ever since they've been put in. So I want to give a real shout out to Max, but also to the Parks Department that continue to keep this park as pretty as it is. It's a pleasure now for me to be able to introduce the mayor of our great city, Michelle Wu. Mayor Wu is once again with us, as she was last year for her first term as mayor, and I want to welcome the mayor back.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much, Lieutenant General, for your service, for your powerful words, for your presence today, and most of all, for your example of only drinking as of age and all the rest of it. We're so proud to see a homegrown one of our community. We will still count you in such positions of leadership and continuing to give back. I'm so grateful, most of all, to our veterans, to all of our military families, Gold Star families, and to those who continue to hold up this legacy. 42 years is an incredible dedication and commitment. Thank you, Tommy, for continuing to put Boston on that national stage and leading by example. And to my colleagues in government, Congressman Lynch and Council President Flynn and at-large councilors Flaherty and Lujan and Murphy, State Representative Beal, Senator Collins, our Secretary of Veterans Affairs for the entire Commonwealth, John Santiago's here, as well as our Fire Commissioner, Paul Burke. Thank you for all that you do. And as mentioned already, the Parks Department, Officer McNulty and the Honor Guard and all of our leaders who are here today. This is so important as part of the fundamental infrastructure of Boston that we come together to remember, to dedicate, and to ensure that the living legacy will always be here even after none of us are in our remaining positions. 25 sons is an incredible sacrifice, a staggering sacrifice from one community. And it's marked every day in the hearts of our families, on special occasions and holidays, in the friendships and memories of those who came home and who have continued to honor their friends, their brothers. And we're here today also to dedicate and go even further back in terms of defining the legacy that this community has given generations before in World War I. To have the actual seedlings and saplings from those silent witnesses, the grand oaks who witnessed what occurred at Belleau Woods. It is very, very special. And we will continue to do everything possible to make sure that everyone recognizes when these oaks are as tall and as strong as the legacies that they are here to remind us of, that we will pass that on through these continued dedications and education for every generation afterwards. That to me is the most important part of why we are here and why all of this is exactly here. Not in a closed off museum or somewhere where you have to travel and pay an entrance fee and learn. And there are many of those institutions that we are very proud to support. But to be right here within steps of a playground, within view of our residents going about their daily lives, going to and from work, it's that reminder, every breath that we take, every step, we are sharing with those who came before us. And the names that you see here, the incredible leaders that are gathered here, are a reminder to every young child in this neighborhood that they're walking on the same streets, playing in the same fields, going to the same spaces of those who came before and became heroes in our community. So thank you for ensuring that that legacy will always live on, and thank you so much. We will never forget.
Thank you, Mayor. I do want to give a shout out to the new Secretary for Executive Office of Veteran Services, Dr. John Santiago, United States Army Reserve. It's great to have Secretary Santiago here, but it's always a pleasure when I get a call from the Secretary and he would say, Tom, we have a mission we have to go on, and in a short time that he's been there, the transformation that's happening at the Veterans Home in Chelsea, what's going to be happening out in Holyoke is certainly a testament to his commitment and dedication that he's going to give the veterans and their families in this Commonwealth. So thank you very much, Mr. Secretary, for being here. It's always a pleasure to introduce this guy. He's been with us for I want to say 42 years, but he's been here a long time. Our good friend, our representative down in Congress, Stephen Lynch.
Thank you very much, Tom. First of all, I want to thank the United States Marine Corps Color Guard for their presence here this morning, and to the United States Navy Color Guard. You honor us with your presence. I also want to thank the firefighters, pipe and drum back there who do a great job every single year. My colleagues in government, Madam Mayor, thank you so much for being here once again. My colleagues in government at the state level, both Senator Nick Collins and David Beal, councilors at large, Mike Flaherty, Erin Murphy, and Ruthie Louisiane, thank you very much for being here. And of course, our own City Council President, Ed Flynn, also a Navy veteran, thank you very much for your service. And I know that Ambassador Flynn is here somewhere. Where is he? Okay. Ambassador and Kathy Flynn, good to see you both. General Mahoney, thank you for your wonderful remarks and for your wonderful service. I just want you to know that I am not holding up your appointment as Lieutenant Commandant of the Marine Corps, so I'll have a few words with Senator Tuberville and see if we can move that little piece of business along. You certainly deserve it. You know, as a member of Congress, I get the opportunity to participate in a lot of ceremonies and memorials. I had the opportunity to participate in the 75th anniversary of the attack on Pearl Harbor, and recently was also invited to Normandy, where the Defense Department actually allowed me to decorate the graves of South Boston veterans who perished and who are now lying at rest at the Seaside Cemetery in Normandy. Had an opportunity several months later to participate in a ceremony at Bastogne in Luxembourg at the 75th anniversary of the Battle of the Bulge, and got to march in behind World War II veterans, but also active military from the United States who were warmly received and thanked by the people of France and the people of Luxembourg. I had an opportunity to lay a memorial wreath in Tunis, right on the Mediterranean, to the World War II soldiers and many, many maritime officers who were civilians but supplying our troops in North Africa during World War II. So many from Massachusetts. And of course, in Washington, when I do my daily run, the best running trail goes up the mall, and we pass by the Vietnam Memorial, but also go by the Jefferson Memorial out to Arlington National Cemetery. And as grand and as beautiful as those memorials are, there is no memorial that captures the spirit and the essence of the men who are remembered there more than this memorial here in South Boston. And it's for two reasons. One is it's in our midst, right? As, to steal a phrase from General Mahoney, these men remain part of the fabric of South Boston, and they were remembered as such. They are in the midst of the community where they attended the local church, they attended the local schools, they played ball down here behind the memorial. And the people they loved are here. The second reason is because of Tom Lyons and members of the committee, Mr. Irwin, Mr. Carroll, Georgie Egan, a brother ironworker, Mr. Turner, and the men at the rail. It's because the reason that this memorial is so special and different is because Tom and his committee and the men at the rail have kept faith with the memory of these 25 young men from this community. And for that, I am eternally grateful. May God bless our veterans. You know, my mother-in-law, Helen, was a Gold Star sister. Her brother, Arnie, got killed in April of 1945 in a jump over the Rhine. And she always used to say that her favorite days of the year were Memorial Days and Veterans Day, days like this, when she felt that even though on the other days of the year she carried the burden of her brother's loss personally and privately, she felt on days like this, when we as a community remember, she felt that her neighborhood lifted her up. Her neighborhood, her city, her state, and her country helped her carry that burden. And I know there are Gold Star families here today, as they are every single year, and I hope that our gathering today will somehow ease their burden, their pain, and let them know that it is indeed shared by all of us. God bless our veterans, and God bless these United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman. I'd like to ask State Senator Nick Collins to please join us. Is he here? Okay. I did want to have Nick just say a few words because he was instrumental in helping secure funding that allowed us to refurbish the fence around the memorial, but also to be able to purchase the fences around both trees. So I just wanted to give Nick that shout out. So thank you, Nick Collins. It's my pleasure now to introduce the President of the City Council, Ed Flynn, who will be speaking on behalf of members of the Council. Mr. President.
Thank you, Tommy, and On behalf of the South Boston elected officials, including Councilor Michael Flaherty, Senator Collins, Representative Beal, and of course our Congressman Stephen Lynch, I'm honored to address you this morning. We are at this historic memorial and at probably the most significant day of the year in the South Boston community, the rededication of this memorial. As the mayor mentioned, we also want to acknowledge the Parks Department and the Memorial Committee as well. Tommy, you recently mentioned that the South Boston neighbors and veterans, elected officials, joined together for the planting of these 2 oak trees from the site of a major World War I battle where 34 men from South Boston were killed in France. Although just small trees, they will remind us of the sacrifices these men and their families have made. One of those heroes killed in that battle is Thomas J. Fitzgerald, where the VFW post is named after him. The great-grandson of Thomas J. Fitzgerald is with us today, Corporal Ryan Sullivan, United States Marine Corps. Once again, we reflect, pray, and honor the supreme sacrifices made by 25 South Boston residents who left our neighborhood and their family, served our nation with bravery, and did not return. We honor our Gold Star families today as well. Their loved ones did not have the opportunity to see them grow old and have a family. We think of that absence, the pain, and all the milestones and experiences that never took place. The pain stays with these Gold Star families, and dreams of their loved one remain just that, dreams. It reminds us that this sacrifice is supreme, and we must honor the fallen and their families. The returning South Boston Vietnam veterans built this memorial to honor all those who served in the Vietnam War and never returned. As Tommy mentioned, on the back of the memorial is the phrase, "If you forgot my death, then I died in vain." And today, on this anniversary, we return to tell you that we did not forget, and we will never forget. You and your fallen brothers represented the very best of us. To the men along the rail, you served as an exceptional example and role model for generations of South Boston servicemen and women who came after you. You came home from war, but you never stopped serving our community and country. You started a national healing process, and you vowed never again should future generations of returning veterans be treated in such a dismissive and disrespectful way by our government and society as Vietnam veterans were. You built this memorial to remember your fallen brothers. You led the way and reminded all of us never to forget. You served as civil servants in the trades, veterans advocates, youth sports coaches, husbands, fathers, grandfathers, proud Vietnam veterans. These returning Vietnam veterans and their families continue to bring us together as a neighborhood and country. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like now to place a couple of wreaths at the 2 trees, and I would ask Mary Ryan and Ryan Sullivan if they would step forward and represent the 34 families from South Boston. Mary Ryan is the great-great-niece of Joseph Kays, and Ryan Sullivan is the great-great-grandson of Thomas Fitzgerald. Jerry. Yeah. One. this one. I- I'd also like to ask the commanding officer of Recruit Station Boston, Major Chris Flood, if he would please step forward and place a wreath on behalf of the Marines past, present, and future. Major Flood. Thank you. As we do every year, we recognize the families of the fallen. And I would like to ask Al Stone and his sister if they would step forward and place the wreath on behalf of the 25 families. Jackie, walk up with me. Representing the veterans, I'd like to ask Sergeant Major Gene Valancourt and Tom McCarthy from the Thomas J. Fitzgerald Post if they would present the wreath on behalf of the Vietnam veterans. Thank you. Before I do the roll of honor, I want to announce that City Council Mike Flaherty has 25 prints that were paintings that were done by Bob Farrell, and he wants each of the guys around the memorial to receive one of his prints. So at the end of the ceremony, because it's raining, please get a print from Michael. Are you ready, Jack? Please stand. Agri Joseph, Lance Corporal, United States Marine Corps. Guys, please step forward. Bazzanotti, Charles, First Lieutenant, United States Army. Borovic, Richard J., Specialist 4th Class, United States Army. Calhoun, J.C., Lance Corporal, United States Marine Corps. Cole, John Henry, PFC, United States Marine Corps. Daly, Paul M., Specialist 6th Class, United States Army. Del Verde, Ronald L., PFC, United States Marine Corps. Desmond Joseph F., PFC, United States Marine Corps. Dunn Joseph F., PFC, United States Marine Corps. Edmund Devin Sergeant, United States Army. Grover Gene D., Staff Sergeant, United States Marine Corps. Ubisac Frank C., PFC, United States Army. Eitri Douglas J., Specialist 5th Class, United States Army. Jacobs John P., Corporal, United States Marine Corps. Joyce John G., Corporal, United States Army. Mylan Edward W., Sergeant, United States Air Force. O'Toole James, PFC, United States Army. Peterson Burton, Lance Corporal, United States Marine Corps. Sheehan Paul H., First Sergeant, United States Marine Corps. Stewart James J., PFC, United States Marine Corps. Stone Edward, PFC, United States Marine Corps. Sullivan Edward M., PFC, United States Marine Corps. Thomas Joseph E., PFC, United States Marine Corps. Turner Donald J., Lance Corporal, United States Marine Corps. Wheeler James K., Specialist 6th Class, United States Army. And in the service of their country, Lance Corporal Daniel Powers, United States Marine Corps, and Sergeant Nicholas Buddy Sanchez, United States Air Force. If you forget my death, then I died in vain. These words do not speak about bravery or valor, duty or honor. And in fact, they do not speak to the dead or about them. They speak to us, the living, for it is us who has been charged with the awesome responsibility of giving meaning and, yes, even life for the ultimate sacrifice on their behalf. Thank you for once again remembering.